All right, everybody, here we are for an installment of Dave's Man Cave. We got a 2024 1LT C8 Corvette in cacti green. And today we are going to install specifically the Attack Blue Dry Nano air filter. Paragon Performance did a big shootout of it. It's washable for up to 50,000 miles with just soap and water, no re-oiling, so you don't have to worry about messing up your MAF sensor if you oil it too much. None of that applies here. Filter's just as good at stock, but it does let in more air, and they're showing that it made a solid 5 to 6 horsepower increase on the dyno, which isn't probably enough to even feel here, but whatever. It's washable, it's cleanable, and pop it back in. It makes it simple. Do it every 10,000 miles after you install it. What you'll need to get to the airbox, which is underneath this cover here, is you need a drill with a T15 Torx bit, so you can remove all those screws. Find a place to put them. I'm going to probably put them right here. I'll almost have a little cup there. As long as you don't smack into them and knock them into the engine bay, you'll be fine. So you're going to take off this. You're going to take off this. You're going to take out these pieces right here that are hand tightened. Those are just there to help hold it in place, as well as add an anchor if you wanted to have like a little stretchy cargo net thing to hold stuff from flopping around in here. There's one down here, so there's 4 altogether. And then you need one of these tools to come in here and pop those pins right there. Those plastic pins. So we're going to use those to pop those out, and then this whole thing's going to come out, and then we're going to see another plastic cover that's going to have 18 more of those screws. So I'm going to go ahead and take these out. I don't have my bipod or someone to hold the camera for me, and that'll keep this kind of quick. We're going to take out these using all the screws and everything I just described, pulling these pieces out by hand, taking out those 2 right there, 2 over there, and then we'll get to the airbox, and I'll show you what you got to do to take that apart. So we'll be right back. Okay, step 1 was to remove that. So you remove those screws, you pull out the little plastic pins, you take out the thumb wheelie things right here, put them all aside, and just pull that thing out. When you put it back in, you just tuck it up underneath the weather stripping. There's a lip right there, you can put everything back. Very simple. Now, what we need to do is take out all of these screws. There's this tub kind of cover that sits over the airbox. So I don't know, I think it's like 18 screws or 16 screws, but same thing, just use your T15, take out all these screws all the way up and around, and that'll just pop out, set that aside. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll be back. And at that point, we're looking at the airbox. We're going to have some additional screws to take the airbox off. I think I might need a 10 millimeter. I'll figure out what I need for that. We'll come back and do that. And then once we're in the airbox, show you how to pull the old one out, put the new one in, and then it's just put everything back together. So we'll be back in a moment. Okay, and we're back. So now what you need is a 10 millimeter socket on the end of, well, actually, no, wait, that's a 10. We need 8s. Luckily, I brought both. So you're going to use, we're not going to connect we're not going to disconnect these. So to get the lid off, scratch that. You need an 8 millimeter. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts to remove. So I'm just going to use my cordless drill for that. I'm going to pop that off, see what the stock filter looks like in there. We'll pull that out, inspect it, and then we're going to show you how to install the new one, the Attack Blue Nano, and then just put it all back together. So 8 millimeter for these. So the only tools you need were that plastic pin puller. You get one of those, pops them right out without breaking and damaging them. If you do snap them off with a screwdriver, you can always buy them at an automotive store and just replace them. I prefer to just have the stupid tool. It makes the job easy. You need your T15, your Torx bit, to get all those other screws, and now it's just an 8 millimeter, and there's 6 of those. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that 10 out for the 6, pop that off, and we'll come right back. All right, so what you can do from here, now we got that cover off, make sure that your weather stripping or seal, whatever, gasket, none of that pulled out when you took the cover off. Make sure that that's all seated properly and clean. There's no chunks of anything on there. It's not going to get pinched when we put the cover back on. And see where that key is right there? Right there. Hopefully the light's getting that. Anyway, that tells you the orientation. There's that nubbin. And the writing should be face up, so they did it the same way. So here's the stock filter we're going to take out. You kind of need both hands. So I'm going to need to put the camera down. I don't know if I have anywhere to put it where you can see it, but you're just basically going to grab it hand here, and just wiggle it up and down and back and forth until it pops out. It's in there fairly snug. It seals in this plastic groove here against this soft rubber seal, so there's some good friction there. So we're just going to go ahead and wiggle that out. Stock filter looks clean. It should. It's only got 1,000 miles on it. So we'll go ahead and pull that out, and then I'm going to wiggle the new one back in there, and we'll come back and show you what it looks like, make sure it's all seated properly, and then we're just going to go through the steps real quick to recap what you have to do to button this all back up. So stay tuned. Okay, here we are. This thing, I just went and pushed it down and it popped right out. So it's actually pretty clean. There were some leaves and stuff that were sucked into the airbox, so just make sure there's nothing anywhere that's going to get sucked into the engine. Make sure everything's nice and clean, no bits of plastic, nothing. I'm going to keep this just because it is pretty clean in an emergency. I don't know if something happened to that one. I have an OEM here that's pretty darn clean. There's not really much in the way of dirt in there, so we're going to go ahead and put that in this bag, put it in the garage, keep it safe. And then this one, all we got to do is line it up in there. I don't know if I'll need both hands to... No, that goes right in. Boom. There it is. Fits nice in there. It's all sealed. I think leaving it out in the sun softened it up. Some people said they had to kind of push it in there because the rubber got hard and it needed to deform a little bit to kind of contour to whatever imperfections are in that lip in there. I've been leaving it out in the sun while I was doing this. So it actually just popped right in. Normally if it doesn't go in, you know, just spit on it and jam it in and you'll be all right. So at this point now I need to put on that cover with the 6 screws. Again, make sure that all of your gasket is all exactly where it needs to be. If it pops out, it orients by that nub in there and that nub in there, so you can't get it upside down or sideways or what have you. And go ahead and we're going to put this cover back on. And in the instructions it says cross the bolts. So start with one there, 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 or some variation, just to make sure that it goes on roughly evenly. So we'll do all that. We'll get this all buttoned up, and then we'll fire it up and see what it sounds like. Greetings, people of Earth. We're all back. This is all buttoned back up. It actually, you know, when you look at it, you're like, oh, I got to remove all this and all that. It sounds like a more daunting task. It really isn't. You need an 8mm, that little claw thing, and you need a Torx, a T15 bit. If you do that, it's just, I mean, it is a shit ton of screws, but you're talking start to finish, you're talking a 20-minute job if you weren't messing around with the camera. If you're just taking your time, remove the screws. Oh, and these, you don't actually have to remove those. You just have to remove the bottom one down here. So little clips down there, and everything else is just screws. Pull them out, pull it out, go to the next level, pull that out, get inside, swap out the filter, make sure the liner, the gasket is in there properly, put it back, tighten it up, and just put everything back together. So let's go ahead and fire it up. I'm not expecting any kind of like change in the induction sound, but let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Make sure there's no cell codes or anything like that. Yes, I know the rear axis is open. I know the door's open. Let's let it idle for a second. Make sure we've got no codes. We'll take it for a drive later. Let's put it in Z mode. Sounds good. I mean, I'm not expecting any kind of radical change here. You just want to make sure that there's no codes, you didn't knock a MAF sensor loose, you didn't forget to put the gasket, you know, something like that, something obvious. So fire it up, let it idle a little bit. I'm trying to see if there's any induction roar. The problem is getting out there to do that. I don't know, can we get any induction roar? I don't know if it's a difference or not. We'll see when I drive it. They have proven that they add 5 to 6 horsepower peak and 5 to 6 horsepower from like 3,500 up. You're picking up a few horsepower. You're still only talking about 1%, so you probably won't feel it. But if you wanted a better filter that gives you the ability to just quickly take it out and wash it, dry it, throw it back in, And, you know, if you pick up a few horsepower in the process, why not? Doesn't require any tuning, any minimal differences in the flow of air that requires, you know, a little bit extra fuel. You know, the wideband sensors and the ECM will manage that. You're not changing anything radically where you're going to need a tune. Ah, cool. 1066 miles. Battle of Hastings. Interesting. Anyway, that's it. The only thing left to do is to, if you want to get the real power, is to put the extra sticker on your car somewhere, because that's probably another 3 horsepower right there. I think stickers are 3 horsepower a piece. So very simple install, no errors. Everything sounds good. Going to go ahead and shut it down, put my sticker on, close everything up, and we're going to go and go back into work. I'm in between calls, and then I'll try and take it for a little ride later and see see how it feels. So that's the install. Highly recommend it. There's K&N, there's AFE, there's some other ones. The K&Ns and some of the other ones, you know, they can give you power gains too, and you can wash them and re-oil them. But those ones tend to flow better because they allow more dirt in. And if you over-oil them, because the oil is what kind of catches the dirt, it can throw off your MAF sensor and cause some issues. So I went with this one because it does seem to be the best regarded. It did give, not by a wide margin, but it did give slightly better gains than the others. And it's a dry filter, so you wash it with soap and water, like some Dawn dish detergent in the sink, wash it out real well, dry it, toss it back in, and you're good to go. And you have to go through that with the K&N anyway. You got to oil, you got to wash it, then you got to dry it, then you got to oil it. So it's actually one less step. So there you have it. That's the install. Dave gives it a thumbs up. We'll talk to you guys.